Hey, what's up? It's Dr. Brian from Mission Residency. And if you are like me, worrying about the match results, or you got a not so positive match result, this is the right video for you. Um, I couldn't sleep the other night worrying about what was going to happen to my students next week during the match, and I um, I made a video talking about all the things that I would tell my own students about how to deal with not matching. And in the video that I'm posting, in this particular video, we're going to cover how to deal with the negativity that will come from inevitably from family, friends, strangers, and the negativity that comes from inside of each of us when things don't go our way, particularly in the match. So I'm going to be covering that. You'll also see some advice. Here's some advice about how to build your CV the right way to address the issues that may have cost you the match. I've done longer videos on things like US clinical experience and research and step 3. This one is going to be something where it'll help you focus on what needs to be done in the days, weeks, and months after not matching. My favorite part, and hopefully your favorite part of this video, are going to be some of the stories that I'm going to share of doctors that have been in your position and what they did to eventually succeed. Okay, so just a bit of a heads up. You're going to see me in pajamas. You're going to see me in a room without any fancy background or lighting or cameras, nice cameras, or fancy mics. It's going to be in a renovated closet. And you'll see why. It's a longish video, so I'm going to actually try to put some chapter markers so you can cut to the part that you need. I do know that the whole thing would be useful for my IMGs. So I hope it's helpful. Enjoy. One other quick tip, you don't necessarily have to watch it. If you want to see me in my pajamas, that's fine. But when I reviewed it, you could really just kind of treat it as a podcast. Put it on in the background while you're driving, while you're doing dishes or folding laundry. Just something for you to keep on in the background. Okay? So enjoy. Hey, good morning. What's up? This is Dr. Brian, aka the Match Ninja. And it's early, and I'm worrying about the match. The match is actually next week. And this is going to be an unedited, more or less, video. I might plug a couple of little clips in here and there, but I just wanted to kind of speak to IMGs, especially from the heart. Really anybody going for the match, but I know my IMGs struggle the most. For those of you that don't know me, I've been teaching and helping IMGs Match for the last 15 plus years. And I want to talk about and share with you some things that are important for everyone to keep in mind during match week, whether you match or not. And we will start off with what happens if you don't match. It's going to be advice that you probably won't get other places. And so hopefully that'll be helpful to you. Again, no scripts this morning. No like fancy lights or cameras like I normally use. Just you and I talking. Okay. So I am in a closet in my house that I'm renovating myself. And the reason for that, why I'm in here, is because of something that I thought you needed to know in case you did not match, or you got unlucky. You get unlucky next week, or you got unlucky if this is after the match. And coming from an Asian culture, failure in my family was always looked down upon. I think that's the case for I think all of my students, whether they're from India, Pakistan, the Middle East, Bangladesh, Philippines, like where my family is from. And if you failed, that's who you were. And it got to the point where growing up, if I failed at something, I would hide it and I would be ashamed of it. And being about, am I 46 now? 46 years old. I've had my fair share of failures, having to start over a couple of times actually. And it sucks. I know in past matches, having to, it's nice to talk about, oh, these are my students that matched, and most of them do. It's the ones that didn't match that I remember the most, the ones that will have to start again that I remember the most. It's when somebody doesn't match, it's the most, it's hard to describe what that's like to talk to someone that you grew to know and in most cases care about. Having to talk to them after they find out that they didn't match. And I think the closest, the most similar thing that I can describe it to is talking to someone that just lost a loved one. Somebody died, or explaining to someone that they have like a terminal, like a really bad illness, right? So it's bad. And trying to come up with the right words to say is tough. And so my 8-year-old daughter earlier today gave me some words that I needed to hear, that I really felt was important for everyone that doesn't match to hear. And I'll share it. I should probably explain to you why she told it to me, why she said it to me. It's an amazing saying. I'm going to write it on my notebooks and my wall and say it to every single one of my students moving forward. And the reason she said it was because of this room that I'm renovating myself in my spare time to save money, and also to kind of teach my kids, some things you can learn how to do yourself. Even though I'm not a trained carpenter, I was YouTubing a lot of the things that I needed to do, like putting up drywall. And so I probably will edit a little bit and kind of put in pictures of what I'm explaining now, okay? So in this house that we had to move to unexpectedly, the closets were not ideal for kids. I'm really thirsty, actually. I'm going to get something to drink real quick. Hold on a second. All right. So the closet wasn't ideal for kids. And, it was small. Our old house used to have like good, like solid playroom for them to go into. This house did not. And so I started renovating, and I had this idea. I said, I'm going to take the 2 closets. This is my other daughter's closet. I'm going to make a hole, and I'm going to put some stairs. I'm going to make it look like a little house or whatever. And long story short, I've gone through, it was supposed to be done months ago, but every time I got relatively close, I realized I could make it better. Like, oh, what if I did this, or what if I did that? And it's grown into this big, monstrous project that I did not expect. This was supposed to be like a surprise Christmas present. And it's March now. But the reason I'm bringing it up is to you is because this last restart, I won't say who it was in my family. It's not that important, but I will say it was a family member that should know me better. And there was judgment. I got talked down to, like I was an 8-year-old, about not finishing a project, or like make up your mind, or why couldn't you do it right the first time? And my daughter heard it. Actually, all 3 of my kids heard it, and I wish they didn't. No, actually, you know what? I'm kind of glad they did. And my oldest daughter saw that I was really down, And typically I let these things kind of brush off, but some of the words that were said were really unnecessarily harsh. They were mean. And my daughter saw that I was down and like demotivated, and my students know that I'm a pretty positive person. And she said something to me. She said, don't let other people dull your sparkle. And when she said it to me, it hit me right away. And I asked her where she learned it. She said her gym teacher said it to her at school. And I said, that's your best teacher. Like, that's my favorite teacher of yours. And so don't let other people dull your sparkle. For me, and then I want to talk about what I know my IMGs go through. But for me, that relative was not here at 3:00 in the morning when I was trying to figure out how to fix something or wire these lights or put up drywall or whatever. Wasn't there. Didn't see like the unexpected problems I ran into when I opened up a wall and said to myself, what the F is that doing there? That's not supposed to be there. And I think I know that is the case for for IMGs, especially for people going through the match process, med students, doctors, that they likely went into this process with big hopes, aspirations. I'm going to do this. I'm going to kick some ass. But the way I came into this closet, I said, I can bang this out in a week, right? I was going to put this up, move this. And then it got unexpectedly more difficult. And that's the journey of an IMG, whether it was a relative that came over here, or you just kind of always aspired to come to the States, or you heard of other people coming back from vacation from wherever you're from, saying how amazing their life is as a doctor in the States. And you tried it. You took USMLE, and some of you effed it up pretty bad on the step one, not realizing how hard it was going to be, how different from the testing that you're used to is. And a lot of the IMGs back in the day would start off with the CS, step 2 CKCS, because it's clinical skills. Like, because they've been practicing so long, they said, I could do this, and they would fail flat on their face. And these are people that have never really failed, at least in school, in their life. And back to why I'm talking about this is, you ran into the step one, then you got to CK, then you got to CS or OET, which is BS, for all being honest. Trying to get U.S. clinical experience, trying to find a place to stay here in the United States while you're doing U.S. clinical experience. I think the worst part was trying to figure out how you were going to pay for all of these things, because it is crazy expensive to go through this process. And I think it's not a secret, and I'll cover this in another video, that the more money somebody had, the stronger their CV was likely to be. I mean, who can afford $3,000 for 1 month of a U.S. clinical experience? That's like a tiny portion of your, relatively speaking, of your life and your application. And so, if you failed along the way on the steps, or the original reason why I'm sitting in this closet in the morning, if you failed to match, I'm absolutely certain someone will try to dull your shine, dull your sparkle. You know it. Whether it's an uncle or an aunt where their kid got lucky or whatever, and they matched, or even like somebody that you really love and should know you better, to be honest, like your parents or your wife or your husband. And they will say, quit. They may say, what are you doing there?
I'm sorry, I should have said that. What are you doing there? Just come home. You'll be fine. We'll take it. You have a job here. Stop wasting your time. A lot of the times they ask for grandchildren. They want grandchildren, and they will try to, I think, unintentionally dull your sparkle. I don't ever believe that somebody that truly loves you wants to hurt you like that. I do believe that the parents, because I've spoken to a bunch of them, a lot of the dads like to wear those, like when I speak to them online, like to wear the undershirt, the white undershirt, and I don't mean to knock you down like that. I think they just want they have your best interest at heart, and they want you to succeed. But here's the thing that you need to remember, okay? They were not there. Well, I don't know if they were there, but let me ask you this: were they there while you're doing your blocks of USMLE World? Were they there while you're trying to write emails and call places for US clinical experience? Were they there when you for somebody that needed visas for your visa interview? The fact of the matter is, the hardest parts of the journey, the things that you needed to succeed at, to even get to the point where you could get ECMG certified and apply, which is a huge success in and of itself. By itself, that is success. The fact that I have a CV that is qualified to at least apply, right? That's success. But they weren't there for the hard things, the ugly things, the things that you didn't expect to run into, that you overcame, right? The same way that relative that gave me a hard time about this room wasn't there when I was like inhaling drywall dust in the middle of the night, not realizing, holy crap, I probably should start using a respirator, a mask. They weren't there. They don't know how hard it is to match. I will tell you, it is hard to match. It doesn't matter if your scores are super high or you're a recent graduate or you have a U.S. citizenship. Good job, by the way. Married the right person. It's still hard. If it wasn't hard, more people would do it. And you were one of the people that said, F it, it's hard, and I'm going to do it. And you've already succeeded. I know you don't want to hear it after not matching. I will tell you, you have succeeded so far. Not matching doesn't mean you can't apply again. I mean, if you did something where they didn't allow you to apply again, okay, you have failed. Sorry, go back home or go back to home country. Don't let them dull your shine. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. I should have said that at the beginning. I'm going to share a few stories with you. One of the stories is about a doctor that didn't match. Somebody that I cared and still care about, actually. That didn't match and what happened to him. I want to share either in this video or probably maybe the next one, depending on how long this goes, about a doc that didn't match into his first choice and was mad. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I had at least I or my students had the reputation of matching into their top choices. And I had one years ago that matched into his 8th, and he was mad. His 8th ranked choice. He was mad. And I'll tell you what happened to him and why sometimes what you didn't want, it's probably what was best for you. And then I'm going to share with you a story about a doctor that flat out didn't match and had to do it again. All right, so where will we start? We'll start with, and I'm not going to use their actual names. I might use their like letters in their name or like, yeah, I'll probably just do that. So this story is about how somebody actually overcame the odds of the soap. And one of the reasons I started thinking about sharing this today was I actually had to send out the invite to all my current year students that on this Tuesday, basically about a week before the match, to jump back into the classroom online. Because let's talk about the strategy for the SOAP, not how the SOAP works, because you could go to like the official website and they actually explain it pretty well. And there are probably other people on YouTube or whatever that spend the time explaining the actual process. To me, the process is effing boring to explain. What I will say is that the SOAP first is a horrible way to get a residency or to start a new life here. You're talking about programs, no offense to the programs, but there was a reason why there were openings at a lot of these programs in the SOAP. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the SOAP, it's on Match Monday or Match Week Monday. That's where everybody finds out if they matched. At the end of the week, if they matched. At the end of the week, people find out where they matched. But in between then, the SOAP happens. That's basically for doctors that did not match into a program. And so the chances, any program that had openings for whatever reason, usually the reason is not enough people rank them high enough, or applicants rank them high enough. They have openings. These programs are oftentimes not in the greatest neighborhoods or don't offer the types of fellowships or opportunities that some of the bigger, more established programs offer. Sometimes it's a new program that just didn't have enough time to interview people. Whatever the case may be, there's a lot of there's fewer spots than the match, right? But relatively speaking, way more applicants. So it's more competitive. Long story short, don't bet on matching in the SOAP. In the last 15 years, I can count on, one hand. Yeah, one hand. I can count on one hand the number of students of mine that actually got a position via the SOAP. I would like to think that it's because not a lot of them have to go into the SOAP. But whatever the case, even the ones that do, like, I don't have faith in the SOAP because I've seen what it does. The chances are low. And so the reason I say it's not great to match into the SOAP, because a lot of the times it kind of puts you on a career path that you didn't want to be on. Like if you want a fellowship, good luck getting a place that is either has strong fellowships or can get you into strong fellowships. The other match doctors probably rank those places pretty high. And it kind of puts you on a career path. So if you wanted to go into like a fellowship like cardiology or hem-onc, you're probably more likely now going to be a hospitalist or primary care, right? And so a lot of the times it's just better wait for the next cycle to get the program that does get you down the road. I understand that like it's a year wait and that year will feel like an eternity. But if you get lucky and match into the SOAP at a hole-in-the-wall program in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have fellowships and is not known for helping to get fellowships, well, now you're going to spend the next 30, 40 years of your life in a part of your specialty, or even in another specialty you didn't want, employed but miserable. If you wait a year, you improve your application, which I do talk about in other videos that I have done and will do. If you improve your application, you apply again, you get more interviews, better interviews at stronger programs, you interview better. You waited a year, but now you can get into a program that sets you up for that the residency, possibly the fellowship at the same place, or even moves you to a Cleveland clinic afterwards, because that's what they trained you well. And now you're set up to be happy for the next 30 or 40 years in a job that you love doing and you love going to, that pays you, not that the money is the most important thing, but pays you what you deserve. You know what I mean? Like, it allows you to take care of your family generationally, meaning like you can now afford to send your kids to better schools, better university, so that they can take care of, they have the opportunities that you didn't have. So in any case, the soap, if you don't get in the soap, it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay. Now back to the story. So I had one of my students, I'll call him V, okay, or Dr. V. Dr. V. I have enough V's. Vivek. I have enough Varun. So there's enough V's where you wouldn't know which student of mine it was. So V, when I trained him in his match season with me, was a terrible student. Like in the beginning, he was terrible. He was sucked. So he was in my July session. He was in a session C, and we were preparing for interviews. He does his first mock interview, and he was terrible. He sucked. Like it was like no. It's like he wasn't trained. Like nobody taught him how to speak or interview, and he sucks. And I gave him constructive criticism. I didn't actually say you sucked. I just said, listen, here are the problems, and here are the issues it would cause you in an interview, and here's how it would lower your rank listing. And 2 weeks later, so not too long afterwards. So when that happens in a mock interview, so I know two things can happen. Number one, they just kind of give up and like they kind of hate me for making them feel not so great, and so they don't work as hard. Or you have somebody work their butt off, and the next mock interview, he was the best in the class. He was awesome. It was like a completely different. Like he was himself. He was flowing. He was organized. Like I would hire him right there if I was determining his match, and it was awesome. I actually asked him like, why, what happened? He goes, well, after you said those things to me, I was mad and I wanted to prove you wrong. Which, listen, awesome. And so I care for this guy a lot that season. I use him as a V, if you're watching this. I used you as a motivator, like as a story to tell. In fact, I've brought this story up to all my students, or ever since he was my student. I think it was almost a decade ago. I think. Oh God, it was over a decade ago. And so, he needed to match. Like the story would be awesome to tell the other students that season. Look, he turned it around. He worked his butt off. He didn't get lazy or he didn't get hurt. And he worked. And look, he matched. And so Match Monday happens, the same Match Monday that my students this year are going to experience. And next week, he doesn't match. And as happy as I was for my students that didn't match, this was the one. And there's always one or two every year that will devastate me the most if they didn't match. And he was the one. He was the one. And I don't mean this like lightly. Like it was like a little brother not matching. And I lost sleep. I know he did too, because we were like communicating. He was back in India at the time, and we were communicating on message. Facebook Messenger or whatever. And, goes to like completely demotivated. Like, and you're talking about like a pretty like positive person. And you could see it. I could see it in the way he wrote things. And when we would talk, I could hear it in his voice. And I know his family, I won't say who, were down on him. He was down on himself, obviously, which I know you guys You know what that feels like. He felt like he let his family down. He had a younger brother that was also planning to come to the United States, and actually ended up being my student later. His little brother, he felt that he let down. He wasn't setting a good example. And so the whole week, I just remember, like, how do I motivate this guy to keep going? Like, everyone is on top, like, everything's not going his way. He doesn't get a single soap interview, not one. Nobody gives him opportunities. And so the soap ends. And so, in the soap, like, you can't contact programs outside of the soap process. Like, you can't do it. It's you'll get blacklisted. It's against the rules. It's against the agreement. And so when the match ends, so the soap ends, he gets a phone call. And so at this point, I'm like, oh God, like, I got to prepare him for we're going to get him set for next season. Like, he's going to do better. We're going to help him. But he gets this phone call. Well, he tells me this after. He calls me. He tells me what happened. He gets a phone call from a program in upstate New York. I won't say which one. From a secretary. Not secretary, I'm sorry. Gosh. From a PC, a program coordinator, asking on behalf of the program, hey, just out of curiosity, you didn't match anywhere, did you? Like, did you ever get a position? And he goes, no. And I won't say why there was a position open, okay, because that's none of my business. But a position was open. And she said, would you like one? Would you like to come to our program? Of course, when he told me this, I was over the moon happy. But then I said, what the F? Like, what was her reasoning for this? And long story short, she remembered him from the interview process. And this is when the interview process was 100% live. You go there, you meet them, you spend the day there basically, or half a day, depending on the program. And the PC said he was nice to her. He basically, and he can comment below if I'm getting this, if I'm missing something here, but more or less, he did what he was trained to do, which was be himself on interview day, but also be kind to everyone. Like, you don't ever know who's watching you and what they could say to the PD, like how much pull they have. And he was kind to her, smiled, asked her how she was doing, like treated her like a human being. And I think a lot of the times, just because of our, like, especially Asians like myself, I think growing up, we're told, go to the kiss the butt of the highest authority. Whoever has the most pull, that's who you're the nicest to. And you forget about the security guards and the nurses, the PCs, all the people that you wouldn't have a job to go to unless they existed. And so he remembered, don't forget the quote unquote little people, and they're not little people. And she remembered him. And so there are people out there that will pull for you, that you have no idea that they're going to pull for you, but they will, as long as you're who your parents raised you to be. So he matched there, and he was awesome there. Like, he was great. He was so good that I trained his brother, and that same program took his brother. Anyway, don't lose hope. There's going to be opportunities. And the other thing I also say is, I mentioned that he didn't have, like, when the soap ended, I was like, all right, now let's see what we can do. because we're kind of helpless during the SOAP other than helping somebody get ready for a SOAP interview. I've had more, and you need to hear this, okay? I've had more students, doctors, IMGs, match or get their residency between the period when the SOAP ends and residency that year, the first year begins, that midsummer. I've had more people in that stretch. In fact, like 1 or 2 every year. Like 1 year I had 3. 3 people that previously did not match, where they were with me, and it was usually somebody that was like in an early like training session that would start like in April or May or whatever. And they would be in the middle of their training or just finish the first part of their training, and they would get an interview. A spot opened up. Some of them pretty good programs, usually middle of the road, middle programs. This would happen to. I'll probably do another video on this. I think this is a pretty extensive subject, but spots open up in the middle, like out of nowhere. And why do they open up? Well, one of the reasons they would open up is maybe a program had was able to get a new 1 extra seat allocation, or somebody. This happened a couple of years ago, actually. That not my student didn't do it, but there was this one student I spoke to, or applicant that I spoke to, that found out there was opening because somebody that matched decided, they changed their mind. they just decided not to go. So the spot opened up. That happens. One of the ways it happens, at least in my world, working with IMGs most frequently, is a spot opens up because an IMG that matched there could not begin work because of a visa issue. I know years ago, I believe years ago, I had somebody match, and this happened to a lot of Pakistani students in one particular year. And I had a student match at a program, and she couldn't take it because her visa was denied. Visa could be denied for a number of reasons. I'm not going to mention why that one was denied, but I will say that if somebody doesn't pass their step 3 and they require an H-1B, you can't work without that. So spots open up, which means if you didn't match, there's a little hope. I'm not going to say you're likely going to match before the next match cycle, but there's little hope, but also 0 disadvantage to getting back on your butt, not getting off your butt and getting back on your feet sooner rather than later, and continue building your CV the right way. The same way where, like, if something went wrong with this renovation, right, or I had a better idea, I would say, all right, it's not going to finish itself, and I'm not going to hire anybody at this point because I'm already in it. Same thing with you. Like, you just got to get in there and start doing your thing. And for the most of you, because I've seen it every year, I would say 9 out of 10 students need to fix their U.S. clinical experience. I will do a whole other video on this where we talk about the types you can get and the pitfalls. But long story short on this, somebody's U.S. clinical experience wasn't as strong as they thought it was, because they did it at a private clinic, or they did it with some doctor that was affiliated with a teaching hospital, but not actually an official student rotating at that hospital. Whatever the case may be, it's usually USCE that somebody needs to look for ASAP. And I will tell you this, the longer you wait to try to get better USCE, stronger USCE, legit USCE, the harder it's going to be. I'd like to say, like, all right, take time to mourn, but the more time you take to mourn, and feel sorry for yourself or let other people make you feel sorry for yourself, the less USCE spots there will be. And even if you do get a USCE spot, right, whenever you get back on your horse, which is hopefully ASAP, you're not going to be starting next month. You're going to be starting 3, 4, 5 months from now, because that's the earliest opening. So instead of doing a rotation in May or June, possibly, which is ideal, you're doing it in August, September, maybe October is the earliest one you can get, which, it's like right on application period. So you got to get back on the horse and start to renovate yourself, renovate your CV, right? So USC is the first thing I would do. The other first thing, so this is like 1A and 1B, get on your step 3, because while your USCE will not start tomorrow, cannot start tomorrow in most cases, right? Your step 3 study can. It can start as soon as you want it to be started. Take the diagnostic, do some, get on the horse, if you can afford a course, do a course. Like you do a Conrad Fisher course. I don't know anybody better teaching step 3. Whatever you need to do, get on the step 3. And you can control it. If you have weak USMLE scores from previous, from the step 2 CK especially, and especially if you acquire a visa, you need the step 3. Pass that thing. It shouldn't take you more than 3 months in most cases to pass that, if you make it your job to pass that thing. Do you need, we'll do another video on step 3 by itself, but it is to your advantage on multiple fronts to have that step 3 passed as soon as possible. So if you could, let's say you're studying already, or you start right now, reasonably, you could probably have it done by June, July. Yeah. If you're already studying now, okay, you should probably have that thing by May. That means when you're in your U.S. clinical experience this summer, you'll know more. Like, you'll be more competent. You'll be more confident, which matters, right? When they pimp you on questions, when the faculty member you're rotating with pimps you on questions, well, you just studied that on step 3, right? So it helps you there, which equals a stronger LOR, and so the study for the step 3, it also helps to have the step 3 in case a spot opens up. Like I said earlier, let's say there was a random spot that opens up in New York City and it's IMG friendly. If the person with the step 3, which is hopefully you, has the advantage over someone that does not have a step 3, all the other things being equal or fairly equal, the step 3 person has the advantage. Again, I'll cover this more on another video. I don't want to get bogged down. Start fixing. And the last thing I would do, not last thing, research I would highly recommend if and only if 2 things are already true. Okay? And these are the 2 things that need to be true. Number 1, you don't start research, like real research, until your step 3 is completed. And then you have at least 1, hopefully 2 months of rotation in the specialty you're applying to, or specialties you're applying to that upcoming cycle. I can't stress this enough. Don't touch research yet. Research is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like, people are going to say, oh, he hates research. I don't hate research. I just I know it's not the most helpful thing on a CV for an IMG applying to certain programs. Think about it. What percentage of programs will care if you have U.S. clinical experience in the country? What percentage? All of them. All of them are gonna care if you have recent USCE in the United States. Will all of them care that you have you're good on the step 3 and you know the material related to step 3 for management, etc.? All of them will care. University-based and community-based. How many programs, what percentage of programs will care that you have published? Well, you got university and community-based. Will community-based care about it? You want to look at, so programs are going to look at your application and say, how can this person immediately fit in and help our program succeed and make the most out of what our program has to offer? And somebody that's passed their step 3 is in better shape to do well at a program because they're more competent, they know more, and they don't have to study when they go home. They can rest after a long day at the hospital. They can rest. They can rest, sleep, and be ready for the next day. Somebody that hasn't passed it yet, like let's say you don't need it for an H-1B, and you're a U.S. citizen. Let's say you decide not to pass it. You'll do it during residency, your first year or whatever. They have to go home and study. They don't sleep. They stress on a test, and then they go back the next day not feeling so great about themselves. Not only because they're tired, but because they bombed a block of step 3 questions, which is not unusual. So do research, and if you're going to do it at a legit place, like a place where you actually have to go there to do it. You're going to run into a lot of BS about how you can like sign on to a research and get first or second author. The research is about to be completed. Do you want to join in and get on it? Programs are not stupid. they know that stuff happens. All right, so I'm going on about this. Let's get to the next story. And I actually might divide this up into another video. This is like 45 minutes long, hopefully helpful to you. If I do divide it up, peace out. I'll see you check out the next video or one of the other videos. If you're still here and we keep this as one thing, clip, next scene. So I'm going to tell you another story about match week not going the way you wanted it to go. And so earlier I spoke about what happens if you don't match. Obviously that's not how you wanted it to go. What about the students that don't match, the applicants that don't match at the program they wanted? Whether it be like a big name program that they had a chance for, or a program that was in the same area or city that they already live and their family's there. Let's say you end up somewhere else. This was the case for, how do I abbreviate? L. That's, again, I'm not going to say the name of the student. I'll just say his name starts with L. And Dr. L was in my students training for interviews specifically with him. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to take less students because it allows me so that I have an opportunity to get to know them. I don't really, there was like a year where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get as many students as possible. And it was not a good idea. And I got to know this student and I got to know his history. And so Dr. L, on match day, Friday, in his year, gets in touch with me and he is upset. Like he's beyond upset. Like he almost sounded as bad, if not worse, than somebody that actually did not match, and he matched. And the reason he was upset was that he got not his first choice, not his second, not his third. He got his 8th choice on his rank listing. And he was, he's Indian, he's ABCD. So he had advantages. Like, yeah, you know, he's not a U.S. grad, but he's a U.S. citizen, raised in the States, perfect English. And he fully expected to match at his first choice. To be honest, I kind of did too. Like, he was one of my better students that season. And he got his 8th. And why was it such a big deal to him? Well, the places that he wanted it to be in a certain part of Texas. I won't say where because I don't want to give away who this is, but I'm going to end up saying where by accident. So whatever. It was in the Houston area. And he was upset. And I don't blame him because I knew what had happened to him. And his situation, his father had recently passed away. And it was sad, and I give credit to him for how he handled, how he was brave enough to keep going, and because it was so close to like the application period, and you know, I don't think he had fully recovered from such a huge loss, because his dad was a big deal in his life, and so his goal was to stay nearby his mom. I used to jokingly say, "Oh, you're such a mama's boy," but genuinely, like, God, who wouldn't want their son to stay near them when you would, you know, the only man left in your life, you know, in your immediate family, because you just lost your husband. And so his goal was to stay near his mom so he could now take care of her or be there for her. He did have a sister that was also in medicine that eventually, again, I hate to sound like I'm on repeat, but she eventually was my student later on. She wanted to be the kind of the man of the house. And he ends up not in Houston. He ends up in Phoenix, Arizona, which is not Texas. It's far. It wasn't a short drive. And he ends up in Phoenix, Texas, or near Phoenix, at should I say the name of the program? No, I won't. St. J, that's all I'll say. And he goes to that program, or he matches into that program, and I say to him, I say the only thing I could think to say to him. There's a reason. Let's make the most of this opportunity. Listen, you matched. Imagine not matching. I think his thinking there was, well, if I didn't match, at least I could still be with my mom, I guess. I think this was worse than not matching. And I said, listen, the universe, no matter what God you pray to, or what you believe in, didn't really matter. Because in this case, I said, listen, whatever God you pray to, the universe puts you in this position. Your job is now to figure out why it put you there. Why Phoenix? Like, and you could worry about what you did wrong during applications. Did you rank wrong? Did you mess up some part of the interview? Whatever. And I said, don't worry about what happened. Figure out why you needed to be at that program. And that program really, it was supportive in a lot of ways, and it really put him in a leadership position. Like he was there with one of my other students from that season. Like, they matched together there. Were there 3 of them there? I know he matched definitely with one of the others, my other docs. And yeah, so his years there were awesome. Like, he grew a lot. He grew into a leader, a better leader there. And he did so well there and was so well regarded and so well respected that he could almost write his ticket to where he wanted to do fellowship. That the people that he worked with, and obviously I haven't spoken directly to the people he worked with, but me having worked with him for the time I got to know him, and the person he was, I wouldn't be surprised if they fought for him to get wherever he wanted to go, right? And so where does he end up? He ends up at Baylor. You know where Baylor is? Houston. Like the universe put him back where he needed to be, and basically that time that he was in Phoenix or during his residency was kind of a blessing in disguise, because all he needed to do was focus on his residency. Like, he didn't have to go home and worry about, did another person eat dinner, or in his case, he didn't have the job of taking care of your one parent that you had left. And so that allowed him to focus, grow, make the most out of his relatively short time in residency, because residency goes by fast. And it prepared him. It also let, I guess, his mom kind of, and his sister would grow closer, because now her sister had to take the reins. In any case, wherever the reason I'm saying this is the match process is not perfect. The algorithm is as cool as it is and complicated as it can be. Has it put people in the wrong programs? Yeah, I've seen it. Okay, I'm not going to say it doesn't. But I've seen it a lot of times put people in a program that they didn't think they wanted or needed, but it was the right program for them. Like, it has a funny way of like matching somebody to where they need to be. You have to also remember, right? Wherever you match, or even the places that didn't match you, like didn't rank you high enough, they know what they needed. They know, programs know who can take advantage of the program the most, like who fits in, who they can help, who's ideal. They know. And so they're kind of saying, listen, we're not, I know it's like somebody breaking up with you. It's not you, it's me, right? So they're saying, listen, you're great. I don't think you would thrive here as much as this other person would thrive here. You're not the ideal fit. I believe that somebody could fit in anywhere, but listen, programs know themselves. There's a program director in Brooklyn that I highly respect, where I know who they would take, because you have to have a certain personality to put up with this program director, like to succeed under him. And I know certain programs where I can almost guess who's going to take them out of my students. Like there's one program where they've always kind of taken my leaders. Whoever was a leader in a class, they took them. Whoever was like nurturing, I would know this one program, like, oh, you take the nurturers. Not that the programs don't try to get every kind of personality, but I kind of know, like, if this student ranks this place number one, the program will probably take them. I know another program in New York that takes the people that are like hyper selfless, like they will go out of their way to help like a colleague, and they never take anybody that will backstab a colleague. How do they figure that out? They ask you certain questions during an interview to figure it out. In any case, so wherever you end up, figure out you're there. You know what I mean? Like, you can't break the match contract anyway. You're there, number one. Number two, at least you don't have to apply again. Number three, you now have a salary. You now have income so you don't have to keep burdening your family, because I know that's how it felt for a lot of you. But now you can benefit your family, you know, and you're getting training. Whether it is a Johns Hopkins affiliate or a little program in the middle of Tennessee, you're working with doctors that have done it longer here than you have. They know, like, maybe they're not your ideal teacher, right? Maybe you don't like their personality, whatever. you still have a job, and you're in training. And it's a short residency. While it may seem long, is pretty short. Like when my students, I find out they're in fellowship already. I'm like, how are you in fellowship already? Weren't you just matched like yesterday? It flies by. You'll find it flies by. So even if you don't end up at a place you want to be, make the most out of the place of your time there, and it'll allow you to get to the place that you wanted to be long term, which will probably lead me to like the next the next story. Whether I keep this as one big long ass one, long video, long form, or I break this up and I say go to the next video. Do you want to hear a story about someone that went to a not so great program and had a chance for one of the top programs in the world? I guess I'll tell that now. And if I don't, go to one of the other videos. Like if I cut this thing later on. So I had should I say the name of the program? I should say the name of the program. It's a program in Brooklyn that starts with a W that is not considered one of the top programs, right? I mean, oh shoot. Whoops. It's not considered one of the top programs. And I got to work with this student. He actually wasn't my student, to be honest. He wasn't my student. He was the husband of one of my students. And great guy. His wife was my student. She's one of my favorite ever. Like not just doctors, but people. Like she made that class fun along with her classmates. And so one weekend, so we're in class and she goes, hey, my husband actually has an interview. And her husband like is in residency already. Okay. At that not so great, not top tier program in the Brooklyn area. And he goes, I go, where? He goes, well, it's next week and it's at Mayo Clinic. And I said, Mayo Clinic? This is after like thinking about where he's doing his residency. I go like the real one, or like, not that the other ones aren't real, but, or like the one in Florida. And so you guys know, the real Mayo Clinic is in like the coldest part of the country. It's in Rochester, Minnesota. And she goes, no, Rochester. And I go, what? And she goes, yeah, he's got an interview for fellowship in, should I say the fellowship? Yeah, in critical care medicine. And I go, can you help him? And so with a lot of, I asked her, like, what does he know about interviewing? Because I had trained her for the whole interview season. And I know, like, and I'm cool with it. Sometimes, like, the significant other, the spouse, the wife or the husband of one of my students is, like, within hearing distance of when they're in class with me. And I asked, like, how much has he absorbed? Because how much has he heard? And some of the wives and husbands that aren't even in medicine, like, take what they learn and they apply it to their own jobs, because communication skills are communication skills. And she said, well, he's taking in some. And I said, listen, I will tell him to come to my house. It was at my old house at the time. And but before he comes to the house, teach him this part, this part, this part, and this part from what I taught you. And so I try to train my doctors to know it so well that they could teach it, so that I become almost useless to them, right? And so she does it, and he comes for the mock interview. And honestly, everybody messes up the mock interview with me. Even my doctors that are trained. And that's in part because I don't think it's eventually helpful for somebody to get a realistic and nice interview, which most interviews are. I gave him what's called a pressure interview. It started off normal, and when the more mistakes he made, the more I would push him into mistakes. And so I didn't have to do much pushing because he to be honest with you, he sucked. Like, he was not his wife. And understandable, because he didn't sit in class for hours learning how to do certain things and practicing like she did. And so we're working, he does mock interview, and I give him his constructive criticism. And I say, you know what, let's take a break. And so we took a break. You know, we ordered pizza, and this was like really late at night, by the way, like it's dark. And so we're eating pizza in my kitchen, and we just started talking. You know, I said, so, you know, what's it like? You know, what's the name of the program? You know, how was residency? Why critical care medicine? I started asking him all these questions. And I eventually asked him, why critical care medicine? Which I had actually asked him in the mock interview. And he gives me an answer that is very much not unlike, like nowhere near close to what he said to me in the mock interview. He was, you know, among other things, he's just started getting so animated. I remember this one thing that he did. He goes, you know, I won't do his accent, but he was like, you know, I love it. And he's like fucking eating pizza at the time. You know, I love it because, you know, when I get into the unit, I get to be like an octopus and like check on that patient and make sure the code over there and like doing this. And he starts moving his hands. Like, meanwhile, like pizza is like still in his mouth. And I see that he is authentic and genuine, which is like, that's the goal for all my doctors, especially IMGs. Like, just be authentic and genuine, use your skills, use your strategies. For him, like, I said, well, that's what he needs to say. And so we took that whole conversation. I said, here's what I recommend. Make sure you bring up. And again, this is not me giving him an answer. This is, here's what you told me. Here's how you should frame it in the interview when asked certain questions. And then we went over some like behavioral, like physical skills and some other skills that I train my doctors for. I said, all right, good luck. He goes to the interview at Mayo Clinic. And he knew, and in fact, they said as much to him, you are not our typical candidate. Like, you don't have the resume that some of these other candidates have. Like, why should we take you? And so he does this thing. I eventually asked, like, how he did. I asked his wife how he did, too. And he said, you know, like, I did my best. It was myself. Like, he pulled off a lot of the things that we discussed him trying to pull off when he was at my place. And it was a situation where all the people they interviewed, they would find out within a period. I believe it was 1 week or so, like 1 or 2 weeks. Like, everybody would know if they got the position or not. And so I waited for that time to pass, and I didn't ask because I didn't want to jinx it, especially if like he had gotten a no. And, you know, I asked his wife, so did he get it? And the day came where like he should have found out, but he didn't. And so we just all assumed it was a no. And I remember asking him, like, you know, is there anything that you regret? And like, is there anything more you think you could have done given the situation? The situation being like, he didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it and he didn't expect it. I said, you know what? Nothing more I could have done, like, given the circumstances. I was myself. I spoke from my heart and my brain, obviously. I was passionate. And I gave him the same. I told him what I told you, which was the truth. And I said, all right, if you did that, is there anything to be ashamed of? Can you feel bad if you don't get it? He goes, no, I can't feel bad. Like, if I don't get it, I don't get it. But he felt good about how he did. And so, does he get it? Yeah, he got it. Like, they informed him a little late, and he did his critical care fellowship at, he's done with it now, but he did it at Mayo Clinic, Rochester, an IMG They came to the States, did this residency, not at a place that I think most people would ever rank number one if they had a bunch of interviews. Made the most out of his time there, made the best impression he could, worked his butt off, showed what he can do, was humble, humble and hardworking. Matters. And he didn't let the situation bring him down. He said, all right, I am where I am. Let me make the best of it. So my advice to you guys that match at places that you weren't at the top of your list, be the best one there so that you're at the top of fellowship lists or future employers lists. Okay. So, gosh, 67 minutes already. Are you guys still watching? I may cut this to a new video. My kids aren't up yet. It's a Sunday, so I'll just keep on going. If you want to stick around, we got to talk about what happens to the docs that flat out did not match. Okay. Earlier in the video, or earlier in this session, I spoke about what happens if you don't match, and oh my gosh, you could get lucky before the next match cycle, which is the least likely thing that'll probably happen to get a residency, right? We spoke about a doctor that ended up at the program he didn't want, but ended up at Mayo Clinic, Mayo Rochester, for his fellowship. And now we got to talk about what happens when you flat out don't match, don't get anything in the SOAP, don't get anything between the SOAP and the next match cycle. And I have to think about, again, I'm not going to say the names of my students, okay? This doctor we'll call Dr. N, okay? So Dr. N is from India, and he was in his match season, he was in this classroom a lot. Like, he did work hard. He worked hard when he was my student. And we would go into like practice or mock interviews, and he was never afraid to mock interview. Okay. And he doesn't match in his match year. And he was not sad. He was, he was obviously sad, but he was also like angry. And I know what that feels like, to feel like I got screwed. Like, what did I do to deserve this? Maybe you do too. Like, I did my best. Other people, here was the thing that you might be able to relate to. There were other people that didn't work as hard as he did. There were other people that didn't put in the effort, that weren't as skilled as he was, and he doesn't match. And I get this long email, basically a why me email. Like, why me? This person matched and that person matched. Why not me? And that's a very easy and natural thing to go to. Like, it's a natural place to go to if you don't match and you see people that either had lower scores or a weaker CV than you did, match. And I didn't answer him right away. Not that I'm great at answering emails. It's hard to do when you get a lot of them, but this one I didn't answer right away because I knew I needed to get this wording right. Those of you that have done those are my students that have done personal statements with me, where I've been editing and helping them out, know that, even in interviews, know that I'm a stickler for getting the words right. And so I thought long and hard, and I finally answered him. And one of the reasons I was hesitant was because I kind of knew why he didn't match. During his match season, he was with some all-stars in my mind. Two of those students from that season I'm actually considerable good friends with now. And Not that we talk every day, but like we catch up every now and then, which is not typical. And he, whenever, so when I gave everybody constructive criticism, they're like those, we'll call them A and the other students or classmates' name, her first name started with A, and and there was another one starts with an R, and they matched. During his interview season, they would do well in mock interviews, and I would tell them, listen, here's where you did well. Here are the things we have to work on it. When he mock interviewed, Dr. N, the one we're talking about here that didn't match, he did okay. He was technically right, but he didn't perform as well as the other two. And to be honest with you, he was like trying too hard. He was trying to like follow like this like, he was trying too hard. He was trying too hard to impress. He was more worried about like getting the praise rather than getting, and really hesitant to get constructive criticism. And the other thing was he didn't really work with a lot of the other students. And the reason I bring this up is because of what happens eventually to him. In the email, going back to the email that I sent, he in reply to the one where he said, "Why not me?" I said, "Listen, you didn't match, and we could say it's because of this, because of that. We've got another cycle together. And in between now and when you're supposed to start residency, and you will start residency one day, we've got to figure out why the universe put you in this position and what you're supposed to learn from this. And there's going to be something, at least in my, not that I'm old, but I'm older than most of you that are going through this process. What is it that life needed to teach you before you started residency?" And for some people, it's be a wife first or a husband. Life needs to teach you communication skills and how to live with somebody. For some people, it's all right. Don't match. Be a mom or dad first. Maybe you've got to learn how to multitask. Yeah. And so for him, he was unmarried without a kid. Okay. Good looking guy. So eventually he did marry a pretty girl, or arranged marriage, I think. And so figure it out. And so that in that off season between March and the next season, he goes to do research, like he fills his CV, and then he comes back into interview prep, and he's practicing, but not like he did before. I mean, he still worked hard. He was always a hard worker. Like he always attended, like it was great. But it was his approach that was different. Like I would give him constructive criticism and he would take it and he would work on it. But the thing that I didn't see the previous season was his willingness to go out of his way to help his classmates that were struggling and to like kind of cheer on the ones that were really doing well. And the ones that were struggling, he would try to help them. He would try to set an example for them. And it was awesome. Like he was a leader. He was never a leader in the previous year, even though he thought he was. And even though in the beginning, I kind of thought he was too, but he was a genuine leader by the time we got to the next season. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that in that second season, he had classmates and I had students that matched in part because he existed. Like he was part of that group. That batch of students, because the advice he would give and the example he would set. And he eventually, obviously there's going to be there's going to be obviously a happy ending here. He matches that season. And there was a picture that he sent me. And it was a picture through a window, and it was of a hospital. And I go, "What the hell is this picture?" And I go, "That's my new program."
And it's a program I never could have gotten into it never ever could have gotten into last year. I didn't have the resume for it, and I didn't have the skills for it. And I guess I could say the name of this program because I don't think they take too many IMGs anymore. Wayne State. It's a good program. And it was his first choice. It's where he wanted to go. And he goes, I couldn't have. This was what the universe needed me, like where it needed me to be. And I think that 1 year, that not even a year, that time period between not matching and eventually matching, while at the time, and I'm saying this to you that have not matched or may not match initially, at the time it's going to feel like an eternity. Everything's going to feel like slow motion. It even feels worse when you see people from your application year start the residency while you have to keep on going in the summer, right? And God damn it. So not only did he was so well regarded there, so highly thought of there, in terms of not just being a student, but being somebody that knew how to evaluate and motivate his peers, that the next year, when he was when he was an intern, his first year there, he was on the interview panel for the next crop of applicants. The reason I know this is because, hey, obviously he told me, but because my students the next season had to interview on his, like, he was the panelist, one of the panelists with the PD and whoever, the faculty, and then there was Dr. N, the first year, the intern, interviewing people. And so he became a leader there. He did his fellowship there too. I will say this. So it's funny because he was like a little brother that was like really annoying, like, especially in his first year with me. But then he was like the little brother where I was like, God, I'm so proud that you're my little brother, basically. So yeah, I think the match may not go how you want it to go this time around. But I do know this. I've never seen an IMG not eventually match. Like if somebody doesn't give up and they do things the right way the next time, like and they don't let those negative voices, if you don't let the negative voices get in your head. I said earlier in this session, even though this might be like, if this is a different video, like I separate this one in an earlier video or earlier in this session, I spoke about how you don't let other people dull your sparkle. And as long as you make sure you don't allow people to take you down, the only person that can take you down is you. And to be honest, a doctor that cannot figure out or is unwilling to figure out how to fix himself or herself, that isn't willing to look at a problem and solve it, should not be a doctor. You know you're a doctor. Like, you know what you've been through. You know what you're capable of more than anybody else. Even the people that think highly of you, they don't really know you and what you've been through. The people that think lowly of you don't really know you or what you've been through. You've been the only one in your own shoes. Okay? So as I've never seen an IMG or anybody going through the match, Caribbean student, not eventually match as long as they didn't give up. So I think the most cycles I've ever seen somebody go through was at least most of my doctors match in first cycle. A handful have to go second cycle. The one doctor, very rarely will I have to work with somebody like multiple years. I had one doctor that I can talk about
that had to wait basically 4 years to start, and for good reason. But she's not a resident. She's past residency now. So do not look at the match as, or matching or starting residency as, anything other than it's an eventuality, meaning it's a destiny for you, as long as you continue to work at it. And this may not, you don't know me, we've never met probably, but as someone that's been doing this for 15 years and worked with and met got at this point thousands of students, I've never seen anybody not match before that kept on going. Okay, so keep on going. Don't let anybody dull your sparkle. Okay, so I think we'll end this session here. When I say peace, you say out. Peace out. Oh, this is Dr. Brian saying peace out. Is that the right way to do it? Yeah. Good luck, everybody. Don't give up. Do not let anyone dull your sparkle. All right, so my name is Dr. Brian, aka the Match Ninja, and this you're going to see looks like a long video, and it is. It was only supposed to be like 15 minutes long, but I got into subjects about the match that I felt would be helpful for someone that's about to go through match week, whether you match or you don't match at the program you want to. This is a video that I know will help you. So I made Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Brian from the future. I just actually finished recording this basically more or less unedited video talking about match week and what happens if you don't match, about what happens with openings that happen right after the SOAP and how the SOAP goes. And you're going to see that it is long. It was only supposed to be like a 15, 20 minute thing. It turned out to be 84 minutes is what it says on the screen. So if you want to cut to certain parts, I'm going to kind of chapter it up in the comments, and you can cut to the part that you feel is the most helpful for you. I do feel like it'll be the most helpful if you go through the whole thing, and you can actually probably listen to it as a podcast, right? You can just listen to the audio if you're driving or you're doing dishes or something. Doing dishes. So good luck, and I hope you enjoy this video.